jumpstart the conversation. This is the personality assessment series. Today, we are focused on the DiSC. For those of us who have never heard of it or have heard it, but are just like, okay, 4 letters, would you give us just a quick overview of what is the DiSC?
Sure. The DISC is for the most part, it's an assessment. It's something that you answer certain questions, and they are designed to help reveal what your preferences and tendencies are according to a certain model that we call the DISC. The DISC, each letter stands for something. And what it really helps people do is to understand themselves, understand others. It's often applied to workplace settings so that people can just get along better and have understandings. And as a result of it, and I've seen this happen, is that you have groups of people working together who are just more engaged and more collaborative. And even when an individual takes it and not necessarily as part of a group, they have an understanding of themselves and an understanding of others where they can start to see, oh, that's why we had that misunderstanding, or that's why so and I work so well together, or, oh, I thought that person's always mad at me, but it turns out they're just a different style.
Yes, that is so true. Just understanding like, oh my gosh, they're seeing the world completely differently. Or I always say, oh, they're not trying to drive me crazy on purpose. They have their own reasons and beliefs and opinions and motives and that sort of thing. So so interesting. Now for the Enneagram, one of the main things that it will shine some light on is your core motive, why you do what you do, which can be really helpful in a lot of situations, why you might have 5 people in the same room doing the same thing, but for different reasons. What type of additional insight does the DISC provide?
Very similar. It really helps people have an understanding, again, around preferences around how you communicate, preferences around how you deal with conflict, preferences about how you engage in a group. So for some people, everything needs to be direct to the point. Let's go, boom. And then somebody else might say, whoa, hold on. That's very harsh. That's not considering these other things. Let's stop for a moment. And they are both right. Yeah. It's just that they have different styles and preferences. And so when we understand that when somebody is different than us in these preferences, that we step out of ourselves, we develop a lot more empathy. And I think it definitely helps us develop emotional intelligence because we're not just looking at the world through our lens. We are having a deeper level of understanding about what drives another person.
I love that. Now, for most of us here listening, if you've been listening to the show at all, you are familiar with the Enneagram. The Enneagram has 9 types. The DISC has 4 categories, 4 types. Would you, first of all, correct me if they're not called types? Tell us what they are called. And then would you go around the wheel and tell us what each letter is?
So we'll call them styles.
Styles. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I knew that.
It's okay. And they're actually 12, but we look at 4. We look at 4 because in each quadrant, there's like, it could have some nuances to it. So there's some like subsets. So technically there's 12. But for the most part, for people to remember it, there's 4. Okay. Now, the easy thing is I love that there's 4 because I can remember 4. If it had like, see, Enneagram, you have so many, I sometimes forget, but I can remember 4. The D, the I, the S, and the C, they all stand for something. And that really helps us with our preferences. So I can kind of like go around each letter and share it with you.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that would be really helpful.
Okay, great. So what happens is you answer these questions and it plots you on this quadrant. And it'll say if you're in the D, the I, the S, or the C, or, these, like I said, there's some nuances within each one. But I mean, for simplicity's sake, let's just say there's 4. The D stands for dominance. This is a person who is very, very direct. They just like things to they're I'd say maybe strong-willed. They're very results oriented, and let's just get it done. Like, what do we have to do to get it done? And tends to be just in that like boss mode. All right, somebody needs to make a decision. Nobody's making a decision. Okay, I'll make a decision. And so you have that, very direct, forceful, boom. And that's a very, very important trait in leadership. So we're going to say all the great things, and then we'll talk about how that could, derail. So then we go around the wheel, and we have the I, and the I stands for influence. Outgoing, enthusiastic, very optimistic, high-spirited, lively. We'll talk in a minute about some really awesome people who are I's. So that person is really around the energy and the enthusiasm, and like, come on, everybody. And there's a real, almost like a kinetic energy about this. It's like, let's go, let's bring it up. And then there's the style called the S, and the S stands for steadiness. This is the person who's very even-tempered, tends to be accommodating, very patient, very humble, very tactful. Just harmony was what they want. So if the I wants enthusiasm, the S wants harmony. And we have to remember that. Because when things aren't harmonious, that S is going to be really concerned if the D is being a little too forceful. They want to make sure everybody's getting along well. And then the C stands for conscientiousness. And that is the person who their preferences are to be very analytical. Maybe they're a little bit more reserved. They're very precise, might tend to be a little bit more private and systematic. And so we have these different ways of viewing people. Now, I said earlier, there's actually 12 styles, because there can be a D who's really close to an I, and they could be considered a DI. Like, they're primarily a D, but they've got maybe this little enthusiastic part of them, and so they'd be called a DI. So everybody has some kind of a blend with the style that's right next to them. And and so depending on how you show in the assessment, you're going to maybe have a tendency between two or just one straight up.
Okay. I like the word blend of two, because I think that's probably more reflective too, just of the complexity of human beings in general, right? We're way more complex than 9 types or 12, but that adds a different level. It kind of reminds me of Enneagram wings as well. You have this main dominant driver. And as you were talking, I'm sure those of us who are more familiar with the Enneagram are probably hearing some of those types, because when you're talking about the D, immediately I'm thinking, oh, that's some 8 energy right there. That bold, direct, want to be strong, powerful, kind of natural leader. Maybe some 1, maybe some 3 in there. That might be kind of the blends happening. Let's talk a little bit about, you had mentioned that you use these in team dynamics a lot of times to better understand each other. Yeah. What should we know? Like, if we're a leader, or if we're working with one of these types, and maybe we can go through each of them, what is a strength that you might point out to us, maybe a hidden potential or hidden strength? And then what is potentially a challenge, or I don't want to call them a weakness, but just an obstacle they might be faced with in the workplace with that energy?
Oh, sure. So what's really, we can take a look at, I'll just go around with the DISC, go in order again, but the D, they get things done. If you want it done, a D is going to get it done. They take action, they challenge themselves, they challenge others. They tend to be very confident, direct. They'll take risks, and those are strengths that they have. Those are leadership strengths. Where it can come around on the side where there's more challenges, is they can come across as lacking concern for others, perhaps some insensitivity or some impatience, because they just want to move it forward. They move it forward, move it forward, move it forward. It's very dynamic and bold that way. The I shares some of those traits: active, fast-paced, move it forward, move it forward. But the I, what's important for them is this encouragement. and
Mm.
enthusiasm and keeping the energy high. The I tends to be a little bit more enjoying, maybe some social recognition. So, the I's love language, if you do that assessment too, that is probably words of appreciation. Enthusiastic and likes to be validated for that enthusiasm. When somebody comes around and tries to squash the I's enthusiasm, the I can that hurts. Uh, some of the challenges that I's have, because they're such people. They can be charming, they can be enthusiastic, they can charm their way through a situation, and just let their charisma work for them. It could, sometimes it could lead to lack of follow through because there's just so much energy and enthusiasm. You kind of forget all the different things that you just said are going to happen. I's can be labeled sometimes as impulsive, not all, but some could be, disorganized. Um, but they just really like to be acknowledged for being that enthusiastic influencer type.
Okay, I'm laughing. It's so crazy like how on point these assessments can be, because that is me to a T. And I was looking at my results and I am just strictly an I. Whereas so as a type 7, I don't know if fellow sevens out there can relate to that. I also see threes in this description a lot, but maybe more with that get it done, like a little bit more execution. So maybe ID or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
ID. So it's just really interesting kind of how it matches up to some of our Enneagram strengths and obstacles that we talk about. So, okay, we'll keep going. So we got D, we got I.
Oh, and you just shared something important. So Sarah took the disc and is
Yes.
what I would call a high I. I mean, it's like
It's
there's this little dot that goes on this quadrant. However far out from the circle you are, that it's closer to the edge. It's like you are it, and yours is practically falling off the edge. You are like tipping over with I energy. So you're a pure I.
very I, yes, very, very much I. And then like as you're saying, the stereotypical or common tendencies, both on the strength side and on the struggle side, like yes, that, love. I'm constantly like in the room or on a podcast interview. I'm like, gosh, how's the vibe? Like, how's the energy? Like, are we vibing here? Is everybody in a good mood? Are we having fun? Are we getting things done? But also, like you said, like, let's also have a good time while we do it. So I was just
Right.
kind of laughing while you were saying that. I was like, oh,
And
that's sweet.
remind me after I go through this, I can give you some scenarios about how they work together and how sometimes they can make each other a little bit nervous, and
Okay.
which ones pair up really well together and take off running, and others are like, they worry about each other.
Okay. I will
So
absolutely, we'll come back to that.
so we move over to the S, and again, S stands for steadiness. And the S, we love S's because S's give us support, really maintain stability. They're very, very collaborative. And they're just so great to help maintain a stable environment. They're really, really patient, team players, good listeners, very, very humble. And anything that disrupts the harmony, just that makes the S feel a bit bugged. And so they want to oftentimes make sure that at the price of we want harmony, and sometimes they'll take the back seat just so that harmony can happen. So one of the things that happens with an S is an S might become too accommodating. They might put their needs behind because they're thinking, you know what, I just want what's good for everybody. So I'll just be quiet and not voice my opinion because this meeting is like so contentious. I just want to get out of here and have everybody smile again and be friends. So I'm not going to say anything. They might have something really important to say. So that's a challenge that S's have. But the S is so wonderful. Like if you're having a problem, the S is that person who listens and doesn't have to keep telling their story after they're not sitting there waiting for their turn to talk to tell you thing to top you off. They're truly, truly listening and harmonious.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We need, yes, I need more of those people in my life. That is so nice. Immediately I'm thinking of the type 9, which is known as sometimes the harmonizer, the peacemaker, the mediator, and also maybe a little bit of some 2 energy, which is also known as the helper or the giver sometimes. So that's interesting just to kind of hear some of those qualities.
I love I love this cross reference. This is great. I was curious if we were going to be able to do this. So thank you for adding that in. So
Yeah.
the C is our last one. So the C is all about accuracy and stability, and they want to make sure that things are done right. Quality, precision. They might be naturally skeptical, and where they tend to experience challenges is they can be perceived as overly critical, overly analytical, and that paralysis by analysis. You're taking so long to go through this, and they're saying, I want to make sure I get it done right. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, the I, who sits just directly opposite of them, is like, it's fine. If something comes up, I'll cover for you, I'll charm them, I'll talk our way out. And the D is like, yeah, hurry up, let's go and get it done. And the S is kind of hanging on there going, well, I want everybody to be happy. So it's just like, where should I go? So there are these areas, like they tend to have, like, whoever's sitting across opposite of you, D and the S, they tend to be opposite. The S is very just low key, and the D is very dominant. And so the
Yeah.
D can steamroll over the S, and the S has to be able to communicate more forcefully and directly to the D. The S might think, oh my gosh, I don't want to say it that way, I might hurt their feelings. And the D is like, bring it. I like things direct. And then the C and the I can drive each other crazy because, the I is all, yay, let's go, let's go. And the C is like, hold on,
Yeah.
stop, you're going too fast. And the C can interpret the I as being reckless, impulsive, you don't have attention to detail. And the I is like more of I can hit the ground running and figure it out as we go, because eyes are very quick thinking and quick thinking problem solvers. And the C is a more of a methodical problem solver. And so they just don't understand that those things can actually coexist. And so there's a level of trust. And that's why the more we know each other's style, the C can say to the I, when you run off with a new idea before we fully formulate it, it makes me feel really nervous about the quality of the work. What I need from you is to just give me a little bit more time to complete. And then the I can say to them, okay, well, when you're constantly analyzing and scrutinizing things, it ends up affecting my morale because